and welcome to Good Day Street Talk, everybody. I'm Antwan Lewis. Here's what we're working on today. June is PTSD Awareness Month. We're going to take a look at different types of traumas that people can experience, as well as the importance of receiving trauma-informed care. Then later, helping the city's homeless, how the nonprofit Project Renewal is expanding their commitment with a social enterprise catering company. Oh yeah, we like food. We're going to show you how. But first, we are celebrating Pride Month. The Brooklyn Community Pride Center has been and continues to be an advocate for the LGBTQ+ community in the borough through its socially conscious and culturally responsive programs. And joining me now to talk more about this is Omari Scott, the Director of Development and Communications. Omari, good morning to you. Nice to meet you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So how long have you all been there in Brooklyn?
So we've been in Brooklyn for 15 years. We started in downtown Brooklyn and then moved to Bed-Stuy, which is where our original permanent home is located. But we were lucky to open up our second location in Crown Heights just last year.
So you're at Restoration Plaza.
Correct.
And in Crown Heights now. So you're spreading out your footprint, which is always good news. Tell us about the inspiration.
Brooklyn Community Pride Center is Brooklyn's only LGBTQ community center, and we're serving LGBTQ Brooklynites every day. We provide a range of programs and services, going from arts and culture, so we have book clubs, we have creative writing workshops, makeup tutorials. We also have health and wellness programs, so we have health counseling, swimming, basketball, but we also have a range of other programs serving immigrants, our TGNC community, and other folks.
So you're expanding the social footprint, it sounds like. Talk to me about the importance of doing it, particularly in a city like New York, which has always been the face and epicenter, if you will, of free to be whoever you are.
Absolutely. So we're so fortunate to have two locations, specifically in central Brooklyn. So again, in Bed-Stuy as well as Crown Heights. And it's so important that folks have access to an LGBTQ space right in their backyard. We want to make sure that people don't have to travel to Manhattan or other far-fetched places of the city in order to get competent services.
One of the principles of the center and any center that truly considers itself a safe space is to make sure that that word gets out. Have you all been communicating, effectively in two locations now that yes, you are safe here within these four walls?
Absolutely. So through social media and our web presence, that's hugely important for getting the word out. But also, we're intentionally located within other spaces. So within the major Owens Community Center in Crown Heights, we're able to access folks who are coming in for one service, say basketball, and then they're able to come down to the Pride Center to enjoy our services. We also take advantage of our partnerships with other community organizations such as Callan Lord, Ali Forney Center, and Hetrick Martin Institute, just to name a few. By leveraging these partnerships, we're building a network of support for our community and making sure that folks can really get whatever resources that they need.
What's been the response?
The response has been really great and huge. As we've opened up our second location, we were able to reach a whole new segment of Brooklyn. Even though we're only one neighborhood over from Bed-Stuy in our new Crown Heights location, we're so much more accessible to a huge new swath of Brooklyn.
So June, of course, is Pride Month. Did you all do anything in specific in regards to it? Meaning you all continually year-round have things going on, but let's talk specifically about June.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're celebrating Pride 365 days of the year, but this month we did get to do some special celebrations. So we participated in the Brooklyn Pride festivities, which was on June 10th. And then even yesterday we celebrated Juneteenth. One of our partners, Brooklyn Ghost Project, which is a Black trans organization, hosted a barbecue at Marsha P. Johnson State Park, which we supported. So again, we're really proud to be celebrating Pride year-round, but this is a particularly special month for us.
I want to go back a week because we actually recently experienced a time where there were 3 separate incidents. I reported on 2 of them where a pride flag was either taken down and or destroyed, damaged in some degree. 2 questions for you. The first, when you hear of incidents like this, just as Omari Scott, how does it impact Omari Scott? Not in your professional capacity, but just as Omari Scott, New Yorker, Brooklynite.
Yeah, it hurts, right? As you mentioned earlier, we think of New York as this bastion of a safe place for LGBTQ folk. But the reality is that hate is still out there, right? And we still need to look out for ourselves and keep each other safe.
So now, in your professional capacity, talk about how you all are advancing the message of tolerance, throughout Brooklyn, as well as the rest of the city and the rest of the world.
Absolutely. Again, by by having a safe space embedded within a larger community center, we're making sure that we are penetrating areas that otherwise our folks wouldn't necessarily access. So for example, having a LGBTQ community center right below a basketball court in Crown Heights, I think is something that's somewhat novel, right? And we're creating access to sports. So we are working with different sports leagues across the city to develop our sports and wellness program.
We talk a lot about young people needing to find a place where they can effectively communicate who they are or who they are believing themselves to be at such an age. Talk about programs specifically geared towards the next generation as you're trying to help them figure out who they are in this world.
Yeah, so community centers are especially important for young folks as well as older folks. But when it comes to our youth, we really leverage our relationships with existing organizations like Ali Forney Center, Hedrick Martin Institute, who've been doing this work with young people for decades. So we rely on their expertise to provide these resources and services to our youth.
And anything about homeless, because we know a lot of the shelter stories we've been covering have been young people, young persons who feel like they were not safe in their own homes amongst families and have just taken it upon themselves to go on the street, which is not where we want them. We want them somewhere where they can be safe.
Absolutely. We actually at our Bed-Stuy location have what we call our Pride Pantry, which offers essential items, everything from combs to dry food to socks, you name it, so that we can make sure that anybody in our community who's in need has access to these essential items.
Omari, we'll put that on our website, all right?
All right. Thank you so much.
Enjoy the rest of this month and the rest of the year.
Thank you.
Up next, everybody, raising awareness about post-traumatic stress disorder. We're going to have more on the different forms of help for the different forms of trauma when we come back. Welcome back. The National Alliance on Mental Health reports that post-traumatic stress disorder affects 3.6% of U.S. adults. That's about 9 million people. To talk more on this is Dr. Tara Chalakani, CEO of Preferred Behavioral Health Group. Dr. Tara, good morning to you.
Good morning.
9 million people.
9 million. And that's just PTSD.
People, a lot of us still don't quite know what that means. Define what is PTSD, Dr. Tara?
Well, I'm going to walk us back a step and just say that statistically, 7 out of 10 Americans experience trauma in their lifetime. As a mental health clinician, I know that 90% of the people that present for treatment have experienced trauma. So in my world, that's a lot more people. So what I want you to keep in mind is that experiencing trauma doesn't mean that you will have PTSD.
Got it.
So that 3.6% of the population is not individuals that have experienced trauma, but individuals that actually have the diagnosis of PTSD, which is what we hear about with veterans and when they return from combat and flashbacks, or anyone that's experienced something where they're having a residual effect is what we consider PTSD.
We were talking also about the different types of treatments that are catered to the specific type of PTSD, correct? Because it's more specialized now, is it not?
It is, it is. So traditional therapy can never harm anyone. So just having someone to talk to about what you've experienced will always be helpful. But there are specific modalities like EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. It's a mouthful.
Yes, it is.
Which kind of helps the brain reorganize itself and not have those residual effects like impacted sleep or flashbacks, things of that nature. And then for younger children, we have sand play therapy, which is a wonderful tactile way of not having to use verbal language, to be able to use toys and play, to be able to reprocess a traumatic event. So there are options.
Does a specific event qualify for a specific type of trauma? Because you mentioned young people. So their reaction to what would induce PTSD in them is going to be a different trigger than what it would be for an adult, right? There is no blanket one thing, correct?
Yes, I mean, we're all different. We all process information differently. We process information differently at different stages in our life and development. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. We always look at the individual and determine what would be best for their needs.
I think one of the things that happens incorrectly for those of us who are not haven't experienced it or whether lived or worked with it, is we will look at someone and think just by a certain behavior or a certain action that this is that, when it may not in fact be the case. Can you talk about how you diagnose PTSD?
Sure. And I love that you bring that up, because I feel people use diagnoses as adjectives, like, oh, I'm depressed, or oh, that person is bipolar, and more often than not, they're absolutely wrong. So PTSD is obviously something that can only be evaluated by a mental health professional. So we should never assume that because someone has experienced trauma that they in fact have PTSD. That is not correct. So as a clinician, we have diagnostic criteria. We assess how long the symptoms have been occurring, what's happened in the person's history to warrant perhaps that diagnosis of PTSD, how is it impacting their life? Because like I said earlier, not everyone that experienced trauma has PTSD. It's only that small percentage, although it comprises a large percentage of the United States. It's not everyone.
We've been doing stories just about assaults in the subway, some of which unfortunately have turned fatal, and we've talked to strap hangers and just regular New Yorkers who commute about how they're feeling every time the story comes on our station or in any whatever medium is reporting it. And a lot of people that I've interviewed have said, you know what, it feels like PTSD. Can hearing about these incidents repetitively be a trigger to some form of stress or trauma?
Yes, we call that vicarious trauma. So in my line of work, when we're sitting with people one-on-one every day, hearing their stories, it absolutely impacts us, because again, it's about our brains processing what's happened. So to keep listening to these stories over and over again, it absolutely impacts us. And then what could happen is that secondary trauma piece where you start hearing about it, it hasn't happened to you, but now you're on the subway looking over your shoulder. You're being avoidant. You may not feel comfortable riding on the subway anymore, and it didn't happen to you, but you've heard it so much that it has absolutely impacted you.
Dr. Tara, what should that individual who may be experiencing what you just described, what should they do?
Being a therapist, I will always say everyone should have a therapist, and there should not be stigma attached to it. It's someone outside of our lives who's not emotionally attached, who's objective, that will listen to us without judgment and kind of help us walk through it the way our loved ones cannot.
So many people incorrectly associate PTSD as some form of mental illness. Or, that's not the case.
It isn't, and we have to really work hard on destigmatizing, and I thank you for having me here, because the more we talk about it and the more we normalize it, there'll be less hesitation in accessing the care that we need. You know, I always use the example of, if you have an earache, you'll go to your doctor, you'll get it checked out, or if you break your foot, you'll go get it looked at by a specialist. But when we are not feeling 100%, or we have a lot going on in our minds and we need to unload it or process it, we hesitate, and we shouldn't. Because if we're feeling so impacted, like you used the subway example, we need to process that. We need to unload it, and we need the guidance of a trained professional to help us through it.
Dr. Tara, I want to ask you about trauma-informed care. Did I get it right?
You did.
Tell us about that.
Trauma-informed care is what everyone should strive to provide. And what that means is that in the realm of healthcare and behavioral health care, we train our staff intensively about what trauma is, how it impacts us, and what that looks like in our clients, in the people that we interface with every day, and how it manifests. And then we go forth and engage our coworkers, our clients, their families in this manner. And I give so much credit to Oprah Winfrey for really putting it on the mainstream radar in her work with Dr. Bruce Perry. And the essence of it is we approach someone from the perspective of what's happened to you versus what's wrong with you.
We're talking more about people expressing and being communicative about what's going on with them. Men, we still have a problem with this, you know. Fortunately, you know, it can be your boy, your best friend, if you have a brother that you're close to, but men still have a problem verbalizing that for fear of blowback or how it's going to look. That's all out the window, right? We just want everybody to be healthy and happy, right?
We do. I mean, statistically, you are absolutely correct. The access to care is probably split, you know, more women accessing than men. But the more we have these conversations, the more we make it just very commonplace and no big deal, the more people will access the care. And I tease people, I'll use the comment that women will be talking about their Botox and mammograms, as they should. No one should be stigmatized, but we need to talk about our therapists, because the more men who do it, and you're specifically pointing out men, it'll be fine. It'll you know, no stigma, no judgment. It's like going for a checkup, going to any other specialist if you need care. I mean, there's no separation between mental health and physical health. We are one being, and you can't have one without the other.
Dr. Tara, so nice to meet you.
Thank
and I'm serious
you.
about you coming back, okay?
Thank you.
Stay right there.
Okay.
We're going to take a quick break, everybody. We'll be right back. We are back. The homeless services nonprofit Project Renewal has been transforming lives through many innovative ways, which now includes a different kind of social enterprise that really defines giving back. And with us to talk about it, Barbara Hughes, Director of Project Renewal's City Beat Kitchens, and Richard Ralph, who is the Training and Quality Control Manager for City Beat Kitchens. Good morning to both of you. And first question, Barbara, I get to ask you. Tell me, when did you all get formed?
Project Renewal has been around over 50 years. And our mission is to renew people's lives. Our specialty is jobs. Richard and I do the job part of it. We've had a training program that was established in 1995. I'm proud to say that today we are enrolling our 110th class in our culinary training program. We've graduated thousands of people, and I think of all the things at Project Renewal, I'm the most proud of that.
So Richard, tell us about the culinary training program.
The culinary training program is a 6-month program where those that have adverse backgrounds are able to apply and get training in the culinary field, which is, I am a graduate of the class myself. I am a veteran. Unfortunately, I was incarcerated due to circumstances that came up in my life where I was just in a dark period of my life, and I made some really disturbing and poor choices and paid for them. But Project Renewal was the bright light at the end of the tunnel that allowed me to renew myself, and I was able to join the class in a field that I never thought I would even pursue, which was culinary, and it gave me 6 months training, 3 months training, 3 months internship, where you get to explore the field of culinary and then venture out and make a career out of it.
All right, so let's unpack that. What degree of skill did you have as far as culinary before you took the classes, and what did you learn in the classes?
Well, before the class, I probably would burn water. But after the classes, it became art for me, where I was proud to be able to create things that I've never created before on a stove. Different dishes, chicken dishes, things that you would see in the store where it's quick fixes, you know, I was able to make from scratch. And I surprised myself in a sense, and then I was able to make those dishes for my family and see the smiles on their faces. And then once I realized that, you know, I can do something like that, Project Renewal allowed me to actually bring a service to the community where I was able to cook food for the homeless shelters, and that just brought pride to myself again, the same pride that I could relate to, you know, serving my country. And, you know, I was bringing it back to community, allowing myself to renew myself in a sense. And I feel that the assistance of Project Renewal, the assistance of the culinary program would give that to others who have walked the path that I've walked. And anyone's allowed to join the class.
How do you connect with community members that you're trying to help, similar to circumstance like Richard?
Well, years ago, we had to go out and sell ourselves and tell people that we exist. We have many, many nonprofit partners at this point who know about us. We're always going to new places to talk about what we do, but often the phone rings on our end and says, I have somebody for your culinary program, can we enroll them? Being around 30 plus years has really helped our reputation, and as I said, class 110, we're doing something right, and we're going to continue to do it.
So Barbara, let me ask you this. Given when you were looking at a field to introduce to some, present, to people, how did you settle on culinary?
We settled on culinary because they're jobs. There are always going to be jobs. There are jobs today, many more than there are people to fill them. And that's really how we settled on it. And I was hired out of the restaurant industry in the city to create the program. At the time, there weren't a lot of training programs in the city, and there was certainly none doing culinary training where you were offered something that you didn't have to pay for. The schools that did exist at the time were much too expensive for anyone to explore.
Walk us through the process, Barb.
It's a 6-month training. There's 3 months in our commercial kitchen with our chef, and then a 3-month internship with partnerships in the city with restaurants, some catering businesses, some other nonprofits, and it really depends on the person's ability and what they can do, when we'll match them up with the right internship.
Now, is the training taking place, and Rich can maybe hop in on this if he wants, at your facility, or do the participants in the program, the trainees, if you will, go to a restaurant or a kitchen that's set up like a classroom? Like, just talk to us about the setting where you're learning the skill.
The 3-month period where they do go to classroom settings in our buildings here in Manhattan, 80s 3rd Street, in one of the homeless shelters. They actually go there and learn under one of our head chefs there. And then we send them out to internships where they can be with us in Project Renewal, or it can be with one of our affiliates that we reach out to and say, hey, we have a student that's a transition into the internship and we really feel he or she would be a good fit for your location. And I've had people do really well in that transition and go out to do bigger and better things with us and with other companies.
Richard expressed how he felt giving back to, the community. He likened it to his time when he was protecting our freedoms. Let me ask you, since you run the program, how does it make you feel when you hear about stories and see graduates or alumni, of the program now becoming a part, and actually putting the skills to use?
It's really exciting. And Richard's a perfect example of how we don't want to just train people and get them jobs. We want to inspire them to have a career in this industry so they can make more money, for many people to finally get out of poverty. And I'm really, really proud of that. And we're making a small difference. There have to be a lot of more people doing that, but I feel like we are making a difference and putting people to work. When people finally graduate from our program, and it's not easy, it's 6 months, you got to stand on your feet, you got to work hard, you got to show up. The graduation, you've got to produce, and the graduation rate, if somebody finishes, is high, and they're going to get a job, and we're going to help them and support them to keep that job.
Let me ask you, Richard, before you go, what is your go-to dish?
I love stuffed chicken, cracked pepper stuffed chicken. I love making that, and I always put it with a side of rice and broccoli. That's my favorite dish to make.
He's fancy. We'll take that. Nice to meet both of you. Stay right there. That is it for us today, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. For all of us here at Fox 5, I'm Antwan Lewis. We'll see you next time for more Street Talk. And as always, thanks for the company.